Worked out. And we
Yeah.
can plug him in right now on FanDuel. It's always interesting when you could build some of these lineups on FanDuel that aren't available on DraftKings, but let's put it in, Jordan. Let's go Justin Fields at quarterback and go to George Pickens at wide receiver. Pickens also only 6K on FanDuel. Running
Slayer OKS,
backs.
this is the definition of reaching. Please don't waste your money on Broncos pass game. Please, guys, especially if Crosby's back. Dude, I'm telling you right now, the likelihood that it hits is low, but we have seen Daniel Jones win the Millie this year. We have seen Fields win the Millie this year after being awful and they couldn't score points. We have seen Desmond Ridder, who was horrible, win the Millie last year.
Caleb Williams this year as well, who's not been great on paper, but he won GPPs a couple of weeks ago just based on volume, like totally different in terms of how Bo Nix would get there. But he had the Caleb Williams game where he threw for 360 yards and multiple touchdowns.
We have seen Tyler Huntley win Millies for people not long ago. Yes, it's gross, obviously. But if your approach to these spots is like, don't play this guy because he hasn't been good, and you're ignoring ownership and you're ignoring the leverage you get here and you're ignoring what else it does for the lineup. Because you know what I think people ignore, Greg? And for what it's worth, Nixon Sutton could be terrible this week. It wouldn't matter to me. I jammed Fields and Pickens. Pickens hadn't been good, and I had my best week yet. Are they a step up from Nix and Sutton? Yes. But I think sometimes people ignore that, like, there are weeks where the Millie winning quarterback has like 18 or 19. Daniel Jones in week 2, I think it was, right? Against Washington.
Yeah. And also, QB production is way more random, at least in fantasy, because it's so important in real life and it's just so unimportant in fantasy relatively. Because the quarterback production, it doesn't really always correlate to, like, Jameis Winston used to have big games, at least in part because of how many interceptions, pick sixes he would throw, because he could lead his team downfield. He'd throw a pick six, and then all of a sudden, Jameis Winston right back on the field with more opportunities to throw the football. And there would also be more pass-friendly game scripts because of the points you'd give up through interceptions. So, yeah, I mean, quarterback production, if you're just thinking this guy is terrible in real life, it doesn't always matter for fantasy.
No. JM85, anytime I tune in, it's a Sutton meat riding fest with this dude. I suppose you're talking about me. That's one way to put it, I guess. I didn't touch Sutton from a DFS standpoint in week 1. I had nothing to say about him in week 2. Week 3, I think I didn't play him, but I bet him to score, and he had 2 end zone targets. This is really the only week. And I think I've made a competent argument, whether it works out or not. Anyway, so we have Fields and Pickens. Who else?
Yeah, so some running backs that we have not yet rostered yet that I also think generally look good on FanDuel and DraftKings. ETN is $7,200. I have a feeling there's going to be people who are saying, like, oh, Tank Bigsby is going to be the guy because he did a good game last week. There was crazy overreactions to the early part of that game. ETN bangs up his shoulder on like the second play of the game blocking. So then you get Tank Bigsby plays for the majority of the first quarter, and people are like, oh, Bigsby, he's the new RB1 in Jacksonville backfield. I don't know. I think ETN at $7,200 on FanDuel is a pretty good option against the Colts on FanDuel.
I don't like it. What do we have him projected at?
For 16.36 fantasy points. So we have him as the 5th highest projected FanDuel running back. Only Mason, Taylor, Kyron Williams, Derrick Henry are higher.
Okay. All right. All right. I mean, look, I have no confidence at all in that Indy defense. Don't get me wrong. For me, it's just like, is Tank Bigsby just going to keep getting more involved? He had another super efficient game on the ground last week, 7 for 90.
But they still, even when ETN came back from the injury, they still went to ETN.
I know. I just don't think they love the guy. I really don't. I mean, they played him in a blowout with 2 minutes left against Buffalo, down 100. Throw him in there. Let's see what happens. He projects well. All right, so ETN, Fields, Pickens. I'm going CeeDee Lamb on the other side of this one.
Okay. I don't have an issue with that.
It's not a great spot, but they can protect the quarterback. And, George Pickens had a good game there last week. Go CeeDee Lamb. He's very expensive though. But do you want to go Fields Pickens without the run back in this spot?
I wouldn't hate it just because
All right,
the
that's
Dallas.
fine.
So, like, the only reason I don't think you'd have to force it though is because the only players on Dallas. Well, how about this? Go with just because the price point is so high on CeeDee Lamb. How about Ferguson at tight end? He's $6,200. It's a pretty reasonable price tag.
That's fine.
There's not a tight end I love on FanDuel.
Okay. Go Ferguson. At running back, second running back, we have 66 remaining. Stevenson at 6,700 again.
And then we're going to be able to pay up for two more studs because then we're going to have a good amount of salary left plus the defense.
All right, who do we got?
So plug in Stevenson, Jordan.
65 remaining.
Go to the for defense, just so we know what we have for the other positions. Put in let's see what's cheap on FanDuel. Just plug in the Broncos defense against the Raiders. They're 4K.
Whittington's 5,400. That might just open things up for us.
Okay. Yeah, Whittington, and then we could probably 7,500 for the flex. Superjack's best. I don't hate that. Walker against the Giants.
Sure.
One thing we'd be very confident in, because Charbonnet had some like relatively decent games with Kenneth Walker out. They went right back to Kenneth Walker immediately last week. He is absolutely going to be the guy for them.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was going to happen there, but that was pretty obvious. All right, we have 9,500 remaining.
No, we filled the lineup out.
I thought we removed CeeDee Lamb and put Ferguson in.
Yeah, we went. Oh, I see. We left both of them in here. Well, here we did. We plugged in both, and we end up with the 80% sim ROI with this.
That's
lineup.
not bad, Jordan. We got to run, but take CeeDee Lamb out, put Jamar in, and see what happens.
I think the other thing we could do too is we could go to let's see, who are the other wide receivers? Yeah, if we wanted to, we could also go Nico Collins and then get somebody a little bit more expensive than Kenneth Walker. But yeah, I mean, both these lineups ended up looking good.